But from jewelry, we are moving on to something equally exciting, if not more. I mean, the cutting edge of new technology, semiconductors, and of course, what the country is hoping to achieve, the kind of work that's already underway. Now, India's semiconductor manufacturing push continues. The government is aiming for end-to-end electronics manufacturing ecosystem in India. To talk about where we are and how long would the journey be, what are the critical ingredients that would be required, we have with us Krishna Murthy, former CEO of India Electronics and Semiconductor Association, as well as Raghu Panicker of Kaynes Semicon. Of course, Kaynes is already in the fray. They are looking at setting up their own facility in Gujarat. I think it's in Sanand. It's an OSAT facility. So, Mr. Panicker, if I could actually start with you, because I think now we're trying to attack all spectrums. It's not just about packaging, but for instance, with the Tatas and the tie-up that they've done, we're looking at the first fab facility, CG Power, which is also setting up a facility like yours. I mean, they did a small technology acquisition because I think they want to look at even designing. I mean, so the ambitions are really, really growing. How would you sum up the hectic pace of activity that we've seen in the last couple of months, and really how quickly we can, get along the whole manufacturing curve? And is end-to-end really possible for India?
Absolutely. So if you look at, Kaynes Technology, the mother company has been around for the last 38 years with a $250 million revenue and a $3.5 billion as a valuation. We had the chances to do a lot of EMS post-IPO, but we decided that there are two items within an EMS which attract a lot of, import duties and stuff like that, right? So those are semiconductor components. The second is the bare board PCB. Now, to overcome those challenges, to make India self-reliant and all the made in India and stuff like that, Kaynes Technology, under a subsidy called Kaynes Semicon, is setting up the outsourced semiconductor assembly, test and packaging. And there's a very bold step. A couple of others have taken. The government has approved our project for close to 3,400 crores. And we are on a path to build that facility. And I believe that, and I always say this, in my lifetime, if I'm able to do this, nothing best like this.
Got it. Just to complete that point, and of course, it'll be great for the country as well as you and others pick up on this. Is this the first step in terms of getting into the full ecosystem, Mr. Panicker? I mean,
absolutely.
The OSAT bit?
Yeah. If you look at now, India, we have been a powerhouse in design. For the last 30 years, we've been ruling the semiconductor or the VLSI design. It's high time we look at, the front end of the back end and the back end of the back end, which is nothing but fabrication and OSAT. So, with that in mind, if you look at, Tata is putting, Adani is putting with a wafer fabrication, and like us in Kaynes Semicon, we are looking at the OSAT. It completes the end-to-end chain, and thereafter is the EMS and all that stuff.
Got it. Well, could you break up the as you say, end-to-end? I mean, could you break up the value of the end product in terms of the various phases that it'll go through?
Yeah.
Give us a broad sense.
Okay, so the design part is pretty much the design part of it, right? And that brings in a whole value chain as far as the semiconductor is concerned. And post the design, the database goes into fabrication, and that's where even though we had a government entity called Semiconductor Complex Limited, which was doing fabrication for ISRO and DRDO. This is the first time we are bringing this more on a commercial standpoint. So that's where the fabrication would come in, which is being done by the Tata with a partner in Taiwan and Adani with a partner in Israel. Post that, once the wafer is fabricated, it comes to the OSAT for the cutting, dicing, assembly, packaging, and testing. These are the 3-4 processes that would happen in an OSAT. And we being in the services domain, this augurs well with what we want to do with semiconductor. Post the OSAT, once the semiconductor product comes out, it then goes into the market. It goes to the distribution channel. And from the distribution channel, it comes to the electronic manufacturing services or the contract manufacturers like us. It comes to us. We do the assembly of those bare boards, putting the semiconductor, you get an assembled board, and from there, the subsystem, and to a system. So that's the entire chain, the way the system design or the VLSI design happens.
Now, Mr. Panicker, so that's obviously, the way the chain works. Now, from the government support side, I think right now the support is to the extent of 50% of the capital that's being deployed, right? Whether it's an OSAT facility or, several other stages of this manufacturing cycle that you described. That does sound like a, pretty handsome push. Is there anything else that you would need from the government? And while a lot of players have shown interest in setting up the OSAT facility or the testing and packaging facilities, what would be needed to really drive the momentum on the fab side, on the designing side, more tech transfers? I mean, there's of course at a country level, at a security level, we've seen the collaboration with the US, for instance, during Prime Minister Modi's latest visit to the US. So, what else would be required to address the higher end of the cycle?
Yeah. So, so far so good, honestly. And as you rightly mentioned, 50% subsidy is a decent push for any of the industry to come here who has a prior experience in electronics. Now, 50% subsidy by the federal government, the central government, and somewhere around 20 to 25% with various states government, in this case, Gujarat, Sanand, this 20%. With a 70% subsidy, I think we get a good push. With the 30% of the money that we have raised, it's a good push for us to put an OSAT plant. Now, you asked a very pertinent question, is this good enough? I'm sure at this point in time, yes. But then, there is a whole lot of ecosystem that you have to develop. It's just not the manufacturing. You need the raw materials. You need the gases. You need the chemicals. All these needs to be localized. And some of the foreign companies needs to be attracted. There's a substrate manufacturing that we need to do. I think the government is doing all that. In the last Semicon event, and I was fairly surprised when 50 CEOs came and sat in one room talking to, the senior minister and talking about what India is doing and stuff like that. That's where the OSAT is concerned. Now let's come to the fab part of it, which you had a question. That's a higher capex intensive. That's a big value of machinery that is required and technology that is required. There, yes, we need to be collaborative with US and Europe, unlike OSAT, which is more of Southeast Asia dependent and stuff like that. So, I think the last visit of the Prime Minister, meeting the US President and doing a MOU with the technology which will help our the defense and stuff like that is a first step in the right direction. We ourselves are looking at advanced technology like co-package optics, and we have invested in a company called Mixtech, and that's a company which has a wide pedigree of doing co-package optics in Intel and Broadcom. With that know-how, we're going to bring those process and technology in OSAT to India.
For OSAT, the subsidy is about 75% now, right, Mr. Panicker?
Yeah, hovers between 70 and 75, depends upon which state you're talking.
Okay, and between fab and OSAT, what are typically margins like?
So I would primarily focus on OSAT part of it. We have studied the EBITDA and the gross margin world over with the top tier OSAT companies and stuff like that. There again, there are less complex technology. In the higher complex technology, the less complex attracts a single digit kind of a margin, whereas the advanced technology attracts a larger percentage up north of 15 plus. So, when we wrote the business plan, looked at three technologies, the less complex, the medium, and the advanced. So that, very soon, we don't want the government or India to think we are just focusing on the less complex. And hence, we want to look at the mid-size complexity, which is called the BGA, flip chip BGA, and the advanced technology, which could be co-package optics.
Mr. Panicker, so the fab, of course, is a higher value add and more complex, more capital investment, more technology, etc. Would the OSAT downstream businesses, what you were trying to do, is that dependent on some of the local fab units coming up, or this will start generating revenues for these individual companies? I mean, how would that work?
Yeah, so good question from a downstream standpoint, right? At the end of the day, you manufacture something. If you cannot effect a change on the pricing of the end equipment or the end OEM, it wouldn't make sense because you're not doing manufacturing just for the sake of it, right? So let's take an example here quickly in the next 10 seconds. Let's say to take an example that, Kaynes Semiconductor plans to do a package which goes into a power module. Now, the power module, for the EMS of that is done by us. We bring down the prices of the power module using our packages because, we can bring down the price of the power packages. With the module going down, it goes into an automotive OEM and thereby affecting the prices down of the two-wheeler EV and stuff like that. And these kind of stuff that we have to start looking at. A similar example can be given into, the fan market, which is driven by the BLDC controller. We are looking at microcontrollers to be packaged in India and stuff like that. So net, if the downstream effect has to be created, wherever we do the...
Actually, what I meant was, you were upstream for the end user industries, but I meant is you were downstream from a fab point of view, right?
Yeah.
So without the fab ecosystem here, are we talking about importing wafers and then, how is that going to work? What is your raw material in that sense, in the OSAT?
Yeah, so the input to OSAT is basically the wafer. You have to look at...
So for that, do we need some of these units which Tata's, Adani's are working with to come up?
Yes, we would need them. At the end of the day, I'm sure it will take 2 to 3 years because bigger fab to be set up, production to start will take time. But from an OSAT standpoint, the gestation period is quite small compared to that. So in that sense, we'll have to start looking at wafers from the multinationals like the TI, like the NXP, like the Infineon. Get those wafers, start manufacturing in India and export it. Some of the wafers we should take and look at the local market and stuff. But yes, wafer would be an important part as far as the OSAT is concerned.
All right, Mr. Panicker, thank you for joining in. This is good perspective, helpful, because this obviously is one of the most important emerging sectors for India. And of course, we wish all the players the very best, considering how critical semiconductors are for overall digital and electronic security.